Hi, I'm Korean anchorman Say, and this is going to be like a podcast because more like a podcast than like anything else because like it has already been like days and few hours uh, since uh, what happened, and if you Google the news, you'll already be able to find a lot of stuff online. So I decided that rather than like just giving you update on like what's going on, what has been going on, I'm just gonna like talk about my ideas, my thoughts. So first of all, um, yeah, it's like so today, like about 12 hours ago, 13 hours ago, North Korea has fired missiles for the first time. Uh, they crossed the line. They fired the missile under what's called NLL line. I think that's what it's called. So basically, this is the first time since the Korean War that North Korea has technically invaded South Korea. So it was a big deal, and uh, the nearest residents, since the missile was fired on the sea on a sea called the East Sea or Sea of Japan. Um, um, it like had a great impact on this near island called Ulung. And thing is, the residents there they freaked out. They basically like freaked out because they got a message saying like North Korea basically like fired their missiles and the missiles landed on nearby location. And what happened was like they got this text message from uh, the public service uh, 25 minutes, about 25 minutes after it occurred. And that's what the news was talking about today. The news media was talking about today uh, a lot. And like this, when you talk to Koreans about, this whole situation related to North Korea, uh, depending on which political party you support, uh, you'll have divided opinions. One who says, well, we have to get along with North Korea, we have to be reunited, and, uh, like the world is sort of like against North Korea and the reunification. Uh, the other that group will say that North Korea is like our enemy of the state, which is officially true. That's according to the law and our constitution, and uh, so we have to be alerted. We have to be on alert. Um, so, like, what's really interesting about this development is that it occurred after the Halloween accident. So, like basically, like North Korea definitely knew what it's doing, right? Like it always does. And before I go on to talk about that, let me finish this last point. So, like most of the time, like Koreans were like we have been living with this for like what 70 years. So like we know that it just doesn't mean anything. Like it's not a big deal. Like they've been doing this for 70 years, and it's not like they will invade us because we know that like it's like a suicidal, right? Suicidal, and uh, they also have their internal conflict, power struggle. Like there's this group that's pro the regime, and there's this group that's kind of anti. Um, there's always this power game, right? So like if the leader steps down, uh, someone else will take over, right? So like they have to do this like annually, basically, to strengthen to strengthen their power internally, right? So like whatever the media says is half true, right? It's not like it's not it doesn't really like cover the entire the big picture, which is always the case, right? The media, like we all know that the media lie or like lies like crazy, right? So like so when we talk to foreigners, they are way more concerned. They are way more worried than like the people who actually live here. And for those expats who live here, like I'm sure they have figured it out. Like it doesn't take long, like how the media talks portrays this peninsula as like really dangerous. But then like when like for those people who live here, we don't really, like we know it's just all like Indian cowboy, that kind of thing. Like it's all just for political stunt. So when North Korea provoke, uh, that means they want attention from the United States, and the election is coming up in the U.S. And unlike the Trump administration, the Joe Biden administration has not been paying close attention to North Korea, so they want attention right before the U.S. election next week. So like this is like we all know, basically that's my point. We all know it's for political stunt. Uh, the world media portrays North Korea as like an irrational government, but I mean, it is somewhat rational. I mean, it's not like they're like drunk people and like uh, I mean they're really smart. They sometimes they're extremely clever. They know exactly what they want and they know exactly how to get it. And South Korea has always like give them money, what like whatever they want, and and they know like how to seize the best timing. So like we don't care. I mean, like regardless of you know the political party, your political ideology or belief system or value system, like this is something that we all kind of agree on. But then like the attitude toward the issue is different. Like the liberals will, like I say, they will say like, um, well, we got to help them out, and Japan and U.S. are just being hindrance. They're just being pain in the ass. They don't care about South Korea. They're just here to steal our capital. They're here only for their interest, which is true. But I mean, who isn't? I mean, who is the world politics? This is how the world politics works, right? Um, and then whereas the conservatives say, well, that's the reality, right? I mean, what are you gonna do? And also, like a lot of people, also a lot of conservatives also say, like, well, U.S. has done so much for South Korea too, so we gotta accept them, like see them, consider the U.S. as our closest ally, in return, because the U.S. also considers South Korea as one of the closest ally. So what is really like what was interesting about this one is not only like it was the first invasion, like technically invasion, into the soil of South Korea, but like it happened on right after this a tragic accident, because this tragic accident is heavily it has doomed as a like we don't know like it's like a time bomb now, because the president, South Korean president, has been suffering from low polling, uh, because it's not very popular according to polls. Um, so like ever since his presidency, because why? Because he was an outsider. He was an outsider. He was far from the establishment within the conservative party here. So like sometimes it looks like the conservative establishment and the liberal party, the Democrat, they're the same team. that's the true irony of it. Like they use the same rhetoric when they attack the president, and yeah, it's really confusing. I mean, like I don't know who, like sometimes like if looks almost like the bigger enemy is actually inside your own party. So when they're after and they go after the president, it's almost like they're one team, right? So after this Halloween accident, um, basically like, well, the first day everybody mourned, and a couple days later, the the day after, following the accident, I noticed the media started doing a few things. This is like a pattern. This is something that the media always do, like following a tragic accident. They always look for someone to blame. Like, like everyone, like conservative media and the liberal media, they look for someone whose responsibility. They started doing that like the next day, immediately, like starting the next day. In this case, bunch of people got together at their own free will, and then, I mean, sadly, I mean, I wish there were more police. There was presence of police officers, but they didn't really have like police officers there. So like that could have been help, but like bunch of people, because of COVID, the pandemic, the youngsters were not able to get out, and for the first time they were able to get out, and they decided to party because in Korea we have, like we don't really have any like cultural activity sort of thing, like, and then people just kind of always will try to find reasons to drink and just get out and party and just go clubbing, and we don't really have this like set culture. I mean, on the surface, we have K-pop, we have like all these clubs and stuff, but then like we don't really have this strong like fundamental like culture, like everything we really celebrate. I'm not talking about those like Lunar New Year's Day and or Thanksgiving. Those are like this like not very fun, just national holidays where you have to like hang out with your elders and family, and you just have to do all these things. And then you get to take a few days off from work and from school. So they're not really cultural. These traditional holidays are not really part of the culture, you know, especially for the young people. But like, so like when the young people, like when they're having fun, they go out and they drink and they go clubbing, and the options are very limited. That's the problem here. And also, the other one is everything is so like packed in Seoul. Like 80% of the country's entire capital is all in Seoul or the near area. Can you believe that? And this is another factor, I think. But then, like the media, like basically the Korean people, the public got so frustrated. They were set in there. They're basically having mental breakdown, and then now they're after someone to blame on. And guess what? It became the police. Because they're saying the police could have done this, could have done that. I mean, it is somewhat true, but my point is, why does this have to be the first thing to think about? I mean, we can always do that later, but what? It's almost like people just want to like find someone to scapegoat, for some scapegoat, so they can feel less bad. Do you see what I'm saying? But that's not going to improve anything. What we should have been doing is looking for the reasons, the cause of this. And if there's anything that we can change, so we, don't allow this to happen again, and change it. But then, like, Koreans being emotional thinkers, they have to always find someone like someone with the power. And I knew, like people who support the Conservative Party and the president, we all know, we figured it out already. We've went through this. I mean, there was this very accident a few years ago, 8 years ago. The students, hundreds of students went out on field trip and ferry, and the ferry sunk, and then most of them died. And that triggered uh, this movement against then administration, which was a political, was a conservative president regime or administration. So they're doing this thing again because what they truly did was uh, they made this like very accident, the victims of this accident, like stars, like heroes, and then like every they use this accident as a reason to disapprove, to convince the public to disapprove then president. They kept talking about where was the president. The president was doing some like uh, like this silly stuff like makeup, like was getting like skincare or something. And then like guess what? The victims' families and the victims, their problems were never really solved. The Democrats were the ones who acted like they were behind. They're supportive of these victims. But what truly happened was they did nothing. They did nothing. And then like when there's this time to elect president, then they all of a sudden start talking about this tragic accident. And basically, this is what happened following this accident again. So when this tragedy happened, like the next day, they started talking about this victims and stories of these victims and how innocent they were, and you know like I was watching the news and like I felt like I was starting to feel very emotional. Like, oh my god, what happened? What happened here? Why, and who did this? Because these poor people, poor young people, they were each like there were so many innocent people. A lot of like people were good sons and good daughters, and they were diligent students, hardworking people. Now they're the victims. And then guess what? The families of this ferry accident 8 years ago, they already they were saying, "We stand by you. We stand with you." They started uh, sort of like developing this link between themselves and the families of the victims of this new accident, which occurred on the Halloween day. Um, so basically, like the liberals, they are seeking ways to use this as a way, like to attack the president, and the talks of impeachment already began. And this is not even the first year. The first year of the presidency has not even ended yet. Like we're still like only a few months into the presidency, and they're using this as means of impeaching the president. And I'm like, how is it like? I mean, how is this the president's fault? Like, how is it? How can this be a reason to impeach him? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened, and I'm sad too. But it's not the president's fault that this bunch of young kids got together and they had to uh, they felt like they had to get out, and they had to go into this. They decided to go to this little place, and then like they, you know, were not being mad. Like they had to be in this situation. It's not the president's fault. I mean, now the chief of police is, I think he's about to be fired. I think he has already been discharged this evening. That kind of makes sense because the police should have kind of seen this coming, but I think this is still not good enough. It's not a strong enough reason to discharge the police chief just because he couldn't see this happen. I mean, I don't know. Just because just because of the number of the people who died, that's too emotional. Like that's just a typically emotional way of thinking. That's a typical emotional way of thinking. But this is what's wrong with Koreans. Can't think like logically, and then this is why they're very vulnerable to maneuvering, right? Manipulation by politicians. Now they're calling the victims stars, and I'm like, sure, it's our loss. It's our loss. I'm very saddened. I'm very frustrated. But I think this happened not because of um, anyone in office, in public office, but just this. This is not policy related. Like this is nothing related to policies. The system, the policy, can do only so much to stop anything from happening. I'm sorry, but this is it. I mean, this is the truth. Um, anyway, yeah. So like now, the conservative, like the supporters of the conservative party, are saying like we're not going to believe this lie again, like we did 80 years ago when the ferry accident happened. I mean, the ferry accident. The students were forced to go to this field trip. It was their responsibility, and there was organizer. But this, the individual, it was an individual, private, individual decision. You know, to get out and party. And the president, I think he's decided to use our tax money to hold funeral to support these families. Oh my God, I don't. I think that doesn't make sense. It was the cause of this accident was individual decision, and there was nothing binding about it. While using the tax money is something that we're forced to do. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's something that's collective. While going out to party is an individual decision at their own free will. While using the tax money is something that, regardless of your opinion, you're forced to spend your money to it as taxpayers. I mean, if they like, I'm more than willing to donate my money because I feel bad. But why does the government have to spend tax money on this? So that's my opinion. There's so much more I wanted to talk about, but this is getting already long, and this is something, the first podcast in years I used to do this long ago when we first had YouTube, but then yeah. So like this is my first sort of podcast, and uh, just showing like as someone who has been a news reporter and broadcaster in Korea. Um, um, yeah, so like I thought I would just share my opinions, and plus something that you should probably know, you might be interested in. All this, not all, but a lot of foreign correspondents in Korea stationed in Seoul are they are very they're not very neutral, like, and they're mostly they sound a lot like the liberal media here. I cannot. It's not funny. Like I cannot even tell the difference between like the liberal Korean media, Korean liberal media, and the international media. Like the turn is like they're like, and also like I'm former journalist myself, like former news reporter, right? So I can tell you that they are all related. They all like have they're all friends. They all know each other, right? Um, so yeah, so I thought I would just share my view. That's not very popular. That's not very uh, it's not very out there, but I also represent yeah, like a substantial portion of the population, uh, the voice, their voice, right? But anyway, thanks for watching, and if you like this, please subscribe and share my video if with someone that you care about. And sorry about my hair, because actually I'm about to go to bed. Uh, I don't feel like waxing my hair and like taking a shower again for like fifth time today. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Don't forget to subscribe.